Today, I'm joined by Claire Brett. Claire is a consultant with PwC. She joined the firm as an associate on their audit graduate training program before working in financial services consulting. Claire is now a manager in the advisory consulting practice at PwC. While in Trinity College Dublin, Claire studied a Bachelor of Arts in History and Political Science. So thank you very much for joining us today, Claire. So just to kick off with your time in Trinity, and obviously, you know, you're a shining example of a student who does not come from a business or economics background, you know, breaking their way into the consulting world. So for you, for your 4 years that you studied history and political science, how would you reflect on your time in Trinity?
So I think, like, overall, certainly when you look back at it, not to sound really old, it's amazing. It was, yeah, like a really happy time. I do think it's important to say, like, I think a lot of people, you know, a few issues. So I did move down from Belfast and didn't get into Trinity Halls. So, you know, initially I didn't really have any friends and everything. So that took a while, but yeah, that wasn't great. No, overall I loved it. I think, like, particularly maybe for kind of academic kind of students, it's once you get to university, you feel a bit more accepted and kind of, you know, around your type of people. So yeah, absolutely loved it. And I think, yeah, it's something like you maybe don't realize until you've left, but like you don't generally, when you're out in the real world, there's not like invites to Noam Chomsky giving a talk on something, just floating in.
That's true.
Yeah, from that side, like, yeah, it was such an interesting time, and yeah, an awful lot of fun.
And if my memory serves me correctly, you studied on a year abroad in the University of California, Berkeley?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And so how would you say your year abroad contributed to your development as a student?
So I think, like, it was certainly really interesting, like, would definitely recommend it. I think one thing I noticed, it was very different in kind of the academic style. So as I'm sure you know, during Trinity, it's like start of the year, here's a book list with 1,000 books. Go read some of them, write some stuff. And like that, I think, like, it's really good in terms of the depth you have to go to. I would say there'd be more kind of academic rigor on the Irish side. Whereas in America, it was a lot more like, these are your set books, you had to read one a week, etc., etc. I think I had one 5,000 word essay the whole year. But what you kind of missed in the kind of go explore, you know, depth stuff, you maybe came out of their courses with much like a broader, like, proper understanding of the topic. So I think kind of academically, like, they're different. Like Trinity was definitely harder, but Berkeley was a lot more, you have to read that book and it's 3% of your grade. And so I think from the academic, like, it was really good to try the two different systems. And in terms of development, I think it's changed a little now, but certainly when I was there, like, internships while you were at college and stuff was much more of a thing. So I was able to intern 2 days a week in San Francisco, which was like, you know, it was great for the CV, it was great for kind of development. And then also, yeah, you're just meeting, you know, you're meeting a much wider variety of people. They have a lot of international students. So from that side, you know, it's just really interesting. It's kind of a different view on things.
Absolutely. And when you approached your penultimate year in college, what job or career did you see yourself getting into?
So I think, like, I was thinking of this earlier and I was like, oh God, we were way less on it then. I'd work a bit in PwC on our graduate recruitment, and the CVs I see coming in, like, they're amazing. I think I was a bit naive. Like, I was quite like, oh, I think, you know, I'd like to work in business. But yeah, like, what does that mean? And yeah, and I think also at the time it was maybe 2011. So things were a bit bleak jobs wise. So there was an awful lot of anxiety around that as well. So really, yeah, I kind of had a broad business, and then was kind of like, okay, so you want to get into business. So accounting. That's the kind of classic way into it. So yeah, I kind of knew from there, and then really, to be honest, it was applying through the milk rounds. You know, obviously they're on usually in the autumn, and, like, you know, seeing what the different companies were and what I was interested in through that.
Okay. And when you did finally begin your graduate program with PwC, Claire, did you find yourself at a disadvantage because your background wasn't in business, or did that make any difference at all?
So I think like some disadvantages, some positives. So now I specifically went into audit, but when I joined, like I'd basically never used Excel. Whereas, yeah, I know business grads obviously would have. Now, I think to be fair, like it's by no means insurmountable. Like if I kind of copped that, which I maybe should have in advance, you could have done a course online over the summer. So I'd say, yeah, definitely I was behind on the Excel side. Equally, then I think where there's particularly, things like European studies, history, politics, BES, you've quite a big advantage would be like you're very quickly exposed to quite senior people, either in clients or in your company. And like, if you're like the CEO of a bank, you're interested in the government policies, you're interested in, etc., how the economy's going. And like a lot of your job quite early, like you'll be having conversations with these people. So I think where probably I had a benefit as well was being able to kind of talk about those things, have opinions on them, etc. That, potentially maybe if you just done kind of something pure numbers, you wouldn't have had so much. So yeah, I think overall, like there was positives and negatives to it.
Sounds, yeah. And so Claire, now that you've been with PwC for 7 years, would you be able to tell us a bit about the company itself and about the role that you play within PwC?
Yeah, of course. So like at a high level, there'd be kind of 3 practices within the firm. So there'd be audit, tax, and then advisory, which I imagine is what you're most interested in. So that's where I am now. Yeah, based in the name. So yeah, that's where I am now. And like, to be honest, it's very broad. So we work effectively, look, it's consulting, it's solving client problems, but we work with like pretty much in all the different sectors in Ireland, some internationally. And then within the different client sectors, clients have quite a big range of problems. So, you might be on like a finance issue, there could be like a cultural issue you're looking at. So it's actually like, I definitely know how to distill kind of what we do into, something short. But yeah, look, effectively take it, it's problem solving. Clients get you in whenever they maybe don't have the capacity or they don't have the skill set to get something done, and they kind of bring in the external expertise. So it would tend to be quite project based. You would change clients quite frequently, be working on loads of different things. And then in terms of my role, so obviously it's changed. I was an audit originally, then moved to consulting. So you'd be very client focused, you'd be on lots of client projects. But then also kind of as you move up the firm, you start taking on more internal stuff. So for instance, the graduate recruitment, I would do some stuff in that. Or, you take on you would manage sort of junior members of the team, etc. So it definitely it kind of evolves very quickly as you kind of move up. But yeah, where I'm at now is effectively a dual role between the two.
It sounds like PwC give you lots of opportunities for career progression though, which sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think so. Look, I'm here 7 years later, so I'm either, yeah. Yeah, I agree to I don't really have much to compare it to because I've only really worked here. But yeah, I think it's very fair to say there's always opportunities if you put your hand up for something. Yeah, like if you want to work in something, you'll get into it, etc. It'd be very strong in that kind of area.
Interesting. And Claire, when you are working on client-facing projects, what are the specific consulting skills that you would use on a daily basis that you might think that all graduates should be aware of?
So I mean, like the technicals of the job would obviously change a bit, but I think it's very fair to say soft skills are like more and more important. As things move to being increasingly kind of automated, digitalized, look, some of the hardcore analysis stuff is still really good, but being able to kind of manage the clients, manage people, manage junior team members, that's really important. Then, yeah, equally digital, everything's kind of moving that way. So whilst, maybe I said I should have done more in Excel, increasingly we'd be moving to more kind of newer systems. So I don't know if you guys use them at all. They'd be like Alteryx and kind of Tableau for data visualizations. So I think like it is really important to be, and you learn whenever you're in there. It's not that it's expected to be had on day one, but those kind of digital based skills are quite important. And then trying to think, yeah, the only other one, which I think maybe our friends who come from like project management degrees and stuff are better at, I definitely had to learn, is like organization. It's, I don't know, I think maybe it's like a Trinity arts block thing, or maybe not good at it. I don't know. But I think being really organized, like we've no excuse. You've got a calendar on your phone, you've got notes in your phones. Yeah, I think that's something that's really important. And it's really important for like your senior members of your team, because if once you've said something to someone, they have it on a list, and even if you forget it, they're going to bring it up at the next meeting to be like, have we done this, have we done this? I think that's a really good skill.
Right. And so looking back at the political science side of your degree, Claire, do you ever get chances to wed your interest in politics with your consulting work?
So personally, in the department, the bit of the department I work in, I wouldn't really deal with that stuff. No, we do have we've a advisory area for government and health. So specifically looking at that stuff, we'd have a people and organization team. So they would do an awful lot around like culture change, that kind of stuff. So I specifically have very much gone down the more like financial services route. But in terms of the actual sort of hardcore of the degree, those teams would use them more. But yeah, like it's definitely, look, it's something that's open to people. And I think a lot of the skills you learn when you're on the degree, like, the analysis, the ways of looking at things, like we all use those every day in kind of whatever sort of project you're on.
Of course, I guess critical thinking skills will never go astray.
That's what like every art student ever is like, it's critical thinking.
It's the excuse we have to tell ourselves, Claire.
Yeah.
Keep us going through the degree.
I'm a big fan of the art students.
Oh, myself included now. So Claire, just as a last question, for all the non-business students, the art students to which we refer, who might be interested in a career in consulting, but would be unsure of where to start, what would your advice be?
So I guess it depends. Is it like, say if they maybe want to find out more to see if they're interested in it? The first thing to say is get an internship. So for my plug, our internship is open now for applications for the summer. The PwC, yeah, it's I found that out this morning. It just opened. So I think that's open until February. So the best way to do it is do the job. Like if you can get an internship somewhere, it will, first off, it'll tell you if you want it, if you want that specific company. And also, look, it's always great for the CV, even if you go somewhere else. In terms of finding out more, like it's use your network. Like everyone's got like, an aunt who is a friend of so and so on LinkedIn. I think my experience is people are like really happy to help. So like, yeah, cold call them, ask them questions, find out about it. I know we're running a couple of information sessions in January for people who might be interested. And then, yeah, I guess the piece is if you know that's what you want to go into, certainly for us, we're really keen on non-business graduates. Like our clients, don't come from those backgrounds. They're in a range of sectors. We need people from loads of different sectors. So I don't think it's like in any way a hindrance to people.
Well, Claire, thank you very much for your time today. You've been an absolute delight, and I'm sure your answers will be extremely insightful for any student coming from a non-business background who is thinking about a career in consulting. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Lovely to chat to you. Bye, Claire.